So here we are now today, and it occurs to me that things like the Hugos and the Nebulas, the Worldcon, and it is the last remnants of the big tent that used to exist, where fantasists and science fiction writers can sit at the same table and eat of the same food and of the same drink. But meanwhile, the field is splintering in the same way that television splintered. So instead of there being Big Tent, ABC, NBC, CBS, you've got Sci-Fi and the Golf Channel and Animal Planet, and so we've got urban fantasy and paranormal romance and zombie novels and slipstream and cyberpunk still, or post-cyberpunk, and space opera and in ways there are. While still we come together at Worldcon and celebrate, all the different kinds of writing we have, there are lots of readers who don't read across these subgenres. They sort of, I'm over here, I'm paranormal romance me, and don't give me any stinking hard science. I don't want that stuff. Or I'm a cyberpunk kind of guy, and keep your swords over there. I don't want any of that. I mean, is that a good thing, a bad thing, or just a thing?
You are presenting a very rosy-colored view of what's going on here, Jim.
Yeah, well,
it's not the readers who are doing this; it's the writers who are doing this.
You think so?
I was at a book signing in the house of a friend of mine. It's part of this whole decentralization of everything. And I met a woman who had 5 fantasy novels from a legitimate publisher. They were not like self-published.
Right.
And my friend introduced me, and she had never heard of me. I said, well, so much for 5 Hugos,
yeah, right.
1 Nebula, and World Fantasy War.
Yeah, right.
But she'd also never heard of Gardner Dozois.
Oh.
And I was going, okay, I can't say this to you, it's too late, but your ignorance of everything else other than your niche is going to hold you back really badly.
Mm.
There was a time in this field, as you remember, when if Jerry Pournelle published a novel, everybody had to read it,
right.
Even though you knew that you would hate it.
Right.
It was just important.
Right.
Larry Niven,
right.
Everybody read him. Robert Heinlein knew. This doesn't happen anymore. There's nobody whose new novel everybody has to read. George R.R. Martin's new novel, everybody who reads George R.R. Martin must read. And most people who read high fantasy must read. But if you're in science fiction, it's entirely optional, and you're probably not going to bother.
So, but why is that a writer thing? I think that's the readers. The readers have decided that they want to read a certain writer, and not only that, they want to read writers that write like that writer. And please don't give me that. I'm not going to go in that part of the store. I'm not going to that dealer's room, and I'm certainly not going to that panel where they're talking about asteroid mining. That's not what I want to know about.
Well, that works okay because the damage that readers like that do is only economical.
I get it. Sure. Okay.
And so the worst they can do is force me to live in a cardboard box. But when writers stop reading broadcast and
right.
start reading narrowcast,
right.
then they are depriving themselves of the inputs that the readers can't see, but which are very important. I talked to Neil Gaiman. Neil is really knowledgeable on fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Neil knows more about R.A. Lafferty than I do,
mm-hmm.
and I've read Dolly.
No, I haven't.
And of course you have. They were only published 200 copies. You would be mad to own one.
Yeah, right.
So I would have thought it was impossible. He has all these influences, and if you only like Neil Gaiman type fantasy, that's fine. You buy his books and you buy other things that he recommends, and you have a good time. That does nobody any damage at all. But a writer who might turn out to be Neil Gaiman and is only reading Neil Gaiman and Neil Gaiman-like fantasy is going to be writing books which are not as rich as Neil Gaiman's. And George Martin, same thing. A lot of science fiction influence went into those books, and I think that the damage of having of reading narrowly is that some of these narrow readers are going to become writers, and some of those writers could have been great writers and will merely be good writers.
So here's a criticism that you probably heard and you probably